You're listening to the What's Happening podcast with Gary Watts.
Good morning, everybody. I've got Nancy Bird here today with the Greater Iowa City. Did I say that right?
Greater Iowa City, Inc. Yeah.
Inc. I forgot the Inc.
Yep.
Not LLC. It's an
Not
Inc.,
LLC. Right? It's Inc. because it's intended to kind of give a nod to the fact that we're private sector. You know, we're public-private nonprofit.
Well, I'm excited to have you. I just met you the other day, and I guess I haven't been keeping up on Greater Iowa City. And I used to be a member of the Iowa City Chamber, and I used to be I think I was on the board of directors way back when. I was in several committees. Anyway, I remember that kind of my younger days. And then I remember ICAD and things, but we're getting into all that here shortly. But tell us about Nancy Bird. Let's talk about her background a little bit, where you went to school, grew up, and let's just start with that.
Yeah. Well, and if this gets too long, you just cut me off, Gary. But
I'll put my hand up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm from Iowa. I grew up in Washington, Iowa.
All right.
Which is about 45 minutes south of here. Right. So, you know, my dad was a farmer. My mom's a teacher, kind of quintessential, Iowa family. And we grew up, like when I was a teenager, we went through the farm crisis.
Right.
You know, my dad was farming at the time. He used to have cattle and hogs and corn and soybeans, the whole bit, and then got out of cattle. You know, the cattle market kind of crashed there. Yeah, that was awful. So it was kind of for growing up in Iowa, I feel like I kind of went through a number of eras,
What'd you learn farming? Being around a farm, hard work, right?
Hard work.
There's no lazy people on a farm, are there?
No. In fact, I think one of the, I think it's a benefit in some ways, it's a challenge in others, but my dad's, he's been through a lot. Also, when he was around 20, he lost his lower foot on a farming accident. It got caught in one of the augers,
Power
those things
take
happen.
Off.
Power take off, 100%, caught his pant leg.
Pants, yeah.
And, his kind of come back from that, and he continues to farm. And there are a lot of farmers out there that, at that time, there was a lot of farm accidents. They're all kind of, have a limb missing or a thumb smashed or whatever it was, but you just keep going. And so when I was growing up, it was a big part of our family kind of culture is like, save your steps. If you're doing something, if you're walking somewhere, you're, pick up something along the way that'll, make things more efficient for you. So I kind of laugh. My sisters and I just went on this trip to Spain recently, and we were all trying to, make sure that we're packing appropriately, organized, just constantly trying to be efficient with your time and energy. And I think a lot of that came from my dad. But I grew up in Washington, and then when I was in high school, we used to come up to Iowa City quite a bit to go to the mall downtown and do our shopping there. But I went on to go to Drake University.
Great school.
Yep, great school. It was in Iowa school. My sisters and I all went to Iowa schools. Iowa State, Iowa, UNI, Drake. We hit them all.
You have all sisters?
I have 3 sisters.
3 sisters
on a farm. So they tried. After 4 girls, I think they were done.
They're
enough. Like, okay, that's good. And we were helpful, but I think I think my dad at the time was pretty conscientious about not over pushing, us getting overly involved in the farm. And so we definitely were out there, but we didn't take it on to the next steps of our careers. They kind of pushed us to get out there.
Did you do anything with FFA in high school?
I was in 4-H.
4-H?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I showed hogs.
You did?
Sheep.
You showed?
Yeah.
At the fair and stuff?
At the Washington County Fair. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So all the stuff you do, kind of when you're growing up on a farm in Iowa.
Good. Good background, huh?
Great background. Yeah. Yeah. Great background. And so going to Drake, I went there. I was in Girls State in high school, which kind of drew me into Drake. And I was interested in that school, and political science was my major with an English minor. And then while I was in class there, one of my professors brought in returned Peace Corps volunteers. And I thought that was fascinating. So my political science work there, I was really kind of interested in the foreign policy aspect of it. And so when I graduated from Drake, decided to get into the Peace Corps, like a big adventure, kind of get out of Iowa.
Yeah.
And, at the time it was like a really great thing. Our parents said, see the world, and then, come back if you want to. And I still think that's a good mantra, I was, people travel here,
right.
It's a really great part of our experience. It's a really great part of living here because there's so many interesting people.
Where'd you go?
I ended up going to, in West Africa, Niger, is the name of the country. It's just north of Nigeria. A lot of people confuse the two, but it's in that kind of Sahel region, just off the Sahara Desert. And it's a very dry landscape, a lot of like mud brick homes. And I was there for 2.5 years. The program I went over with was called the African Food Systems Initiative, which was kind of a nod. I got into that country, I think, because of some of my farming background, which is, when I say farming background, it was like, helping dad.
Right.
My dad's the expert. So when I got over there, they kind of train you up in a few things. So we did built wells, water wells, and did gardening projects and things that were more appropriate for my work. I mean, I had to work with the women. It was a Muslim country, so that was interesting as well. Just learning a different culture, how traditions work in different, religious structures.
Where'd you stay?
I stayed out in a village.
Tent or actual?
What's that? No, it was actually, I had my own mud brick house. It was like a 1-room house. I had a fence around it, like a wooden fence and mud fence around it. And then I had other family compounds around me, and they all kind of looked out after me. But I would go over and eat with my neighbors in the evenings, and then help the women with some of these. And when I say help the women, they were helping me. I mean, there was a lot of interesting things that happened in the Peace Corps, but I think the key piece of having a volunteer there is the connection to resources outside of the village. So through the Peace Corps, you can get small grants or help fund projects that the villagers then can say, okay, if we had, $50, what could we do with it? So a lot of the things that we worked on with them is like some new gardening techniques that could help advance their growth of the mango trees, for example.
Did you stay with other Peace Corps folks for the United States, or were you on your own?
There was a hostel in the capital city of Niamey, and we would go in and meet up, but everybody goes out to their own village.
Wow.
So I had a motorcycle, a dirt bike, that my son is a little envious that I, spent a couple of years on a motorcycle that I've not told him that he could do. The 16-year-old, it's like, you did it. I'm like, I did do it.
Yeah.
Choose your adventure after you leave this house. But it was really, really meaningful work. I mean, and when I really do think, I learned more from them. Than they ever learned from me.
How so?
Well,
work ethic. Spirit.
Work ethic. I can't believe what good recyclers they were.
Mm-hmm.
They could, anything that they had, any kind of built materials, I mean, they would use it until it was just done.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the big markets that you would go to, they would, children's toys were made out of, car parts, and how they could a lot of the car parts actually that, when a car was finished, they turned into a lot of different equipment. They turned it into farming utensils and just all kinds of things that they would make useful around the house. And they just didn't waste anything. So, and they were smart about it. They were so clever with how they used different tools and how they could make something go really, really far. And, in our culture here, we don't do that. It's like the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So
if it gets a little warm, we throw it away, or
that's right. That's right.
Or put a new battery in it.
Yeah.
What would if you looked at the people you worked with, what were their goals? Were they happy? Did they know any better what the Western world was like?
Yeah.
What did you think of how they felt or where they were
Gary,
at?
that's a great question because, there's so often there's this assumption that
right.
with all the things that we have here that affords us a happiness.
Yes.
And the one thing I would say there that was tragic was like kind of the health scenario they had. They just did not have people or hospital scenarios or healthcare providers that helped them with their own health. So in that piece, that was probably the hardest thing to watch, is that just to see people just think if you got a toothache.
Yeah.
I mean, let's say you can't get to a dentist, that tooth can rot out and it's really painful.
Yeah.
So, you've got people kind of suffering in those ways. But at the same time, they had such tremendous love in their families that, a lot of times, there's this old adage about, when you go to South Africa, it's very political. When you go to, Asia, it's more spiritual. Well, when you go to Africa, people laugh a lot. They just kind of learn to kind of, take things more lightly, and they love their families, and they have learned to laugh through a lot of hard situations, right? So the fact that they, really took the visitor in, they're so gracious with their time and really with what they have. They'll give you the shirt off their back, So those things were really impactful to me, and I miss it dearly. It's a kind of a bubble in time that was out there, and I learned from it. And then you come back and you're just in a whole different scenario.
Different culture,
yeah.
Here it's maybe striving for success or money or power, whatever people strive for. They're just striving to be happy.
They're trying to get food on the table.
Yep.
Make sure they got water. Very, very much the basics.
I imagine in healthcare, like pregnancies and babies, and I know there's a lot of things with cleft palates with kids that where docs go down and do surgeries to help those kids that are born deformed.
They do have. They'll have like a cement room, like when you've got your cinder block spots, where they'll have people who are coming in from non-governmental organizations to help support clinics like that. And then everybody comes at those days. There's lines. Right. So they do have a system of supporting those entities that are there that, I think there's a lot of people across the globe that has agencies that will go in and support, but it didn't really come from their government, if that makes sense. Yeah. So,
isn't there government? What is the government makeup?
Well, it's changed a lot. And honestly, I can't tell you, this was like, if you think about the year that I went, it was after school. So it was 30 years ago. And there's been several coups since then.
Dictators mostly?
What's that?
Is it dictatorships?
Yeah. Yep.
It's kind of this band runs this and this band's over here. They kind of.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you what it is today because I just haven't kept up with it, what it is. But you do have a number of like roving tribes of different, groups that advocate for different things, and there's conflict for sure. I don't know the state of it today, but I do know that the resources aren't growing there, and I look back and I'm kind of concerned about it. I think about those folks that are living there. Most of the ones that I knew are long probably gone or passed, but it was a great experience.
I got just one small thing I'll share. Becky and I kind of had a really nice trip this summer where we went to like 7 countries.
Oh, yeah?
And over 3.5 weeks. And one of them was Tanzania, Africa, Serengeti. And we had like 3 or 4 safaris. And as far as the people, they were fantastic. You're right. They're happy, friendly. And our guide was just the most fantastic guy. We had such fun with him. And the interesting thing of when you get into kind of maybe the economics of a different culture, I think, because every place I went, I was always asking, what's the average income or whatnot? Just was curious. Anyway, we were talking about he had to drive 2.5, 3 hours that morning. We started like at early morning, so he had to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, drive all the way up. The roads were very, I don't know what I'd call them, a washboard, so very not maintained.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're banging around in these Land Cruisers like you could hardly start sliding. I mean, it's really rough. But they do, anyway, he'd get up like a 2.5, 3 hour drive, and just to get there to be on time to pick us up and go from where we went. And we talked about economics, and the average income in this area, I think, was around $500-600 a month. He's got 2 kids. We started talking about housing, and he was so happy he got a little place that he could build, and he thought it'd take 4 to 5 years to build his house. Because when he had the money, he'd start with the lot or whatever the area, then the foundation, then the hut, and then whatever. It isn't really a foundation. It's just kind of like, I suppose they dig it out. I don't know. But as he could afford it, then he could do the frame or whatever, then the roof. And it takes 5 years, and we were talking about interest rates. And I said, well, how do you do that? Or the loans are, I think it was 18 or 20%. I go, right, what? So here we had 3% not too long ago. It's 6 now, or 5.5. So when I was listening to him, but he was happy just to have the work. And it just blew me away of the economic part of it. But how happy they were, and everywhere we went, he showed us this and that, and he knew the Serengeti like the back of his hand. Didn't know how long he could keep it up because of the bumpy roads. It sounds kind of corny, but they were extremely bumpy.
Yeah, I
Where
believe
you're
you.
back and I mean, it just beats you up. I mean,
Yeah.
after an hour, your teeth are rattling almost. But anyway, that was my African story. Was they don't take anything for granted, and they're just the most lovable, kind people that we were around. That we just had a great time with them. So,
Yeah, that's great. That's
So,
great.
whatever that's worth. But the
Yeah.
economic part's just like we're so just be thankful where we're at and where we're born and raised and what we have here. I think a lot of people take that for granted, and you shouldn't. All you
Yeah.
got to do is travel, like what you
Yeah.
did, and you see different things.
Yeah. Well, I will say that, one of the other benefits of being in the Peace Corps is getting to know other Peace Corps volunteers. Because,
Yeah.
even in our community, we've got a number of Peace Corps volunteers here, and you can almost tell who they are. And, it just kind of makes you a little scrappier, and, because there's a lot of things you just have to do without, or you figure out how to do it, even though you don't have the resources to
Right.
do it. And you kind of learn that there.
Yeah.
And then if you apply it to your work in other places, it's incredibly helpful. So, I
Cool.
mean, I think that's a little bit of what we're doing at Greater Iowa City Inc. We're trying to be a little more scrappy. When the Iowa City Area Development Group merged with the chamber, they were looking for a new president. And I think, one of the things that we did when I first started was to, kind of pull them in, pull those service lines in and figure out, well, how can we be a little scrappier with what we've got to do more, and I'm not sure if we're there yet. We'll probably be on that journey for a long time, but it does help just remember, if you're not quite sure, a lot of the things we do is in coalition building, the things that businesses can't do on their own. Well, if we're all together, we recognize there's a problem in our region. Well, how can we do it together?
Right.
And then figure it out. And then if it's not perfect, that's okay. Just start doing it, and you just figure it out as you go. And we've done a fair amount of that, and it's actually quite fun. We're
Great.
enjoying it. There's a lot of really good people out there. I love meeting people like yourself, and your daughter is pretty amazing. She does a
is, isn't
lot.
she?
I met her on the community foundation
Yeah.
board, and she's doing good stuff. And it's just been really wonderful to meet all these really interesting people across Johnson County.
So let's go back to the Peace Corps, then we'll get into this Greater Iowa City area. What else other than Africa? Did you just stay in Africa, or your 3 years?
Well, I was there. Yeah, I was there for about 2.5 years, and then I kind of traveled back. And then when I returned, I went back to graduate school at Illinois State in a
Okay.
program for returned Peace Corps volunteers. So I got a fellowship at Illinois State, and then kind of advanced into the economic and community development work with my graduate degree.
And then you migrated to Seattle.
Then I migrated to Seattle. I had a lot of friends out there from the Peace Corps, and we all kind of stayed in touch. But I started working for a small consulting firm to support municipalities and with some of the environmental impact work that they had for different development projects, which I didn't love that work, but eventually ended up working for a company that got into urban design and planning and landscape architecture, and continued to work for the city of Seattle, and then also on other regional projects. So I learned a ton out there about planning, because I ended up getting my certified in planning, but I didn't really go to school for it. So I learned it on the job, and that's a great way to learn. It's working is an education in and of itself. So working in Seattle out there, I met my husband at Illinois State. He went out there with me. We had our 3 children in Seattle, and he worked for, at the time, Princess Cruises. They have a huge, they're headquartered out there.
Head to Alaska from there, right? You
Yeah,
go Puget
right.
Sound.
He went up to Alaska a lot. We just, we were kind of in our later 20s, 30s. We had a great time while we lived out there. And then, really, when we were leaving is when that just kind of massive population influx really kind of came
Started coming in, yeah.
Yep. So
Did you climb Mount Rainier? Or
I never climbed it, but I certainly hiked up to parts of it.
you could see it, right?
Yeah, it was beautiful.
So
Yeah.
how do when you look, you obviously been around lots of kinds of people and whatever in the area. So tell me about the Northwest compared to Iowa, or
Well-
what you obviously were there 15 years.
Yeah, 14 years. Yep.
14 years.
Yeah. Well, what drew us out there was, well, first of all, just knowing a few people that kind of helped.
Right.
But then also, I mean, it's just, it's the West Coast. We've
Right.
never really been out West. And so living out there was really unique. I mean, for us, we were really excited to be there. We, kind of developed our own friends. Steve lived in different places than I did so that we could meet more people. We weren't committed at the time. We're like, I'm not sure. We're dating. We'll move out here. I don't know if we're going to stick together or not.
Yeah.
So we were kind of careful not to
Right.
overplay this hand. Ended up working out, but we lived in a lot of different neighborhoods. But I mean, it's a gorgeous place to live.
Right.
There's just
Lake Washington,
Lake
UW.
Washington, just the topography. And this is kind of my naivete moving out there. I just didn't realize how much topography there was. And I thought Seattle was closer to the coast. It's really inland on a Elliott Bay. How many islands there were. The fact that there's like a rainforest out there. And there's just all kinds of topography that's pretty stunning.
Ski slopes, not
Ski
too far
slopes,
away.
we would go skiing after work. When it gets dark and rainy in the city, if you get off work at 45 minutes up, later you could be skiing,
Right.
So that's kind of what got us through the winters is skiing. And, I still ski like a gorilla. I learned to ski in Iowa, not very well.
Sundown?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So the terrain out there is pretty impressive. So, I mean, I could kind of do it, but my form wasn't so great.
Right.
But
It's
we had
beautiful.
fun.
Well, that's good. So now you're in Seattle. So let's just get into Greater Iowa City and coming back home, and tell us, what you're up to now.
Yeah. Well, I moved back. We were out there around 2008, if you remember the kind of the housing bubble kind of burst.
Yeah, I do.
It kind of rocked us a little bit when we lived out there. Like, hey, we really need these two incomes. If one of us were going to drop off an income, we've got these little kids.
Right.
What would we do? We weren't in any jeopardy, but it got us to thinking, like, for sustainability with our family and how we want to live and spend time with our family, is this the best place to do it when the costs are so expensive? So I've told this story before, but my mom sent me a cutout clipping of this job in Iowa City. They needed a new executive director at the Iowa City Downtown District. So Steve's like, well, just apply for it. I mean, if you get it, it's meant to be, and I'm like, all right. So I did. And then, we got to all these different interviews, and I think he got a little nervous. He's like, oh, who knew? Because he's from St. Paul. He's like, people from Minnesota, according to him, they don't typically move to Iowa. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's actually the case.
Up there, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. They make fun of us all the time.
All the time, right? But when it came time, I did end up getting the job, and he was, great about it. We moved our kids out. And so we had a 4, 6, and 8-year-old at the time. So they came out, and we started living in Coralville when we first moved here, and our kids went to Kate Wickham. Then we had a little one that was in preschool. And then I worked for the downtown district for, there, kind of got started there with that job, which was really interesting. So it was the first time they had a district funded that way through a self-sustaining metropolitan improvement district, which is a tax.
Yeah, tell us about that, the downtown district, because I kind of remember that. But
So
tell me about that job and how that worked and what you did for Iowa City.
Yeah, and a lot of this work was done before I was hired by the organization, the Iowa City Downtown District. They needed a new executive director, so the people here did the work to kind of set up the SMID, as it's called, which is a taxing district that the property owners choose to tax themselves, have the city collect it, and then put it into this nonprofit organization to spend right there to make enhancements. And at the time, there was a lot of safety concerns downtown, and they just needed support with some of the bar environment and getting retail going again. And not that it wasn't going, but they just needed some revitalization support. And so with funding like that, you could hire, dedicated staff to do it.
What was the budget?
The budget when we first started was around $500,000. And then it's grown over time, and that kind of goes with the assessment of the value of the properties. And then also what funds you can bring in Well, if you've got staff working on it, you can bring additional dollars in. You just have to kind of express the value. It's true of a lot of things. You know, people usually, you can find funding for things that, you know, I think the value is there and you've got a real strong background of how it's going to be spent. So
how did you spend it?
Well, initially we started with trying to understand, well, first of all, a lot of it went towards just paying staff. So we had 2 staff when we started, and then trying to set up kind of the mission of the organization, what we're going to spend it on. We spent some time on retail recruitment. That was something that the board believed strongly in. And, you know, a couple of years later, you know, we hired Nate Kading. He was our first hire, his first hire out of working for, you know, the NFL, right? Betsy Potter was our first hire. She was an intern when I first started. So she's been with me during my tenure there the entire time. She's still there. She's the executive director now. And she was really instrumental in getting some of those events really kind of figured out, getting the retailers to work together so that you can bring people downtown, because feet in the street is really important for downtown Iowa City, making sure that people are down there and shopping during the day. So
is that where the Jazz Fest came from to bring downtown?
It isn't. You know, I think Jazz Fest has been around for a long time, years and years. And I think, and I believe, I'm not exactly sure who started Jazz Fest. It's been going that long. But Summer of the Arts is the organization that now has a number of those events under their umbrella that does kind of the larger events that brings people in. So that was a separate organization. But the downtown district, the primary goal for them, you know, is feet in the street, making sure you've got really positive marketing, working on some of the clean and safe initiatives, which they've done a great job of that over the years. So, yeah,
so
I did that
if you
for
owned a
years.
downtown business, then you would come to meetings and talk about, hey, I need more foot traffic, or what are we doing to promote downtown Iowa City? How can we get more people here? What about after games? I mean, I don't know what you talked about, but
all those things.
That stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, you've got to market collectively to get, you know, so if you've got a small retailer and they're trying to do their marketing, it can get lost in a sea of everything else. But if you're all marketing the same thing, then people start to see it. They start to come down. And a lot of those events, you know, there's shop crawls, there's all kinds of things that they've been working on for a long time to make sure people are seeing the marketing and drawing them down, which I would say they've been very successful.
Yeah, I was going to say, how's it worked? I mean, how do you measure it? Through retailers that increase their business, or they just feel...
They'll tell you we've got more people walking in the doors, our sales are better, you know. So it's, you know, for an independent retailer, it's just kind of a constant thing. You know, it's... We've got a great store downtown that has always said, you know, you're only as good as your last hour. So you've got to always, you know, be bringing
Keep
it.
turning
You know,
it around.
that's right. That's
Good.
right.
So is that still in effect, or is that part of Greater Iowa City?
Nope. The downtown district is an independent nonprofit, 501c6 nonprofit. Betsy Potter is the executive director there, and now they've got, you know, several staff, and they've got kind of a mandate to expand the district. So they're going through that process right now. And, you know, the other thing is trying to establish better working relationships with the city of Iowa City to kind of make sure that the downtown thrives, you know. So the city of Iowa City and the council there have over the course of time really built in downtown as one of their strategic pillars of making sure that Iowa City stays strong.
Good. So that's part of it. So keep going here in Greater Iowa City. What else is ICAD? You want to get into ICAD?
Yeah,
Greater
sure.
Iowa City?
So at any rate, you know, when at the downtown district, and our team there at the time worked very closely with Josh Schamberger at Think Iowa City and the chamber. At the time, it was Kim Casco was the president then.
Have you ever ridden your bike with Josh? Or?
You know, I have actually. It's funny that you say that. We've talked and marketed and done a lot of things around supporting the bike community, but I've never ridden my bike with Josh.
Let's make a date. What are you doing tomorrow? Should we just
Yeah, we
you
should.
didn't bring your bike.
Yeah.
Anyway, he
actually,
can ride a bike.
That's kind of a
Josh a plug here.
Yeah, for sure. No, so anyhow, we had a number. Kate Moreland was the other one at ICAD at the time, and we would meet. Boy, I think for a while it was like weekly through COVID, trying to figure out how are we going to keep our messaging out to the business community and to all of our community leaders really kind of focus that messaging so we're not confusing people with a number of different nonprofits saying different things, making sure we're supporting the social services and just good communication around COVID, how you stay safe, how you stay 6 feet apart. Boy, we met a lot, and then.
How difficult a time was that for what you saw with your groups?
Yeah, I'll
managing all that.
It was a tough time. I think, we weren't in the health industry, which I would say would probably clearly the toughest, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you're an independent business owner and you don't know if somebody's walking in your door,
right.
It's you were thinking about your rent, your employees
Right.
that you staff. I mean, it's super stressful. So I was real proud of our group. We decided, we're in solidarity with these businesses. This is our mission to make sure that they can stay in business.
Mm-hmm.
So we showed up every day. We were downtown in the office, going door to door with masks on, trying to be as safe as possible,
Mm-hmm.
following all the protocols, but making sure that we were doing what we could to support them stay open. So there was a lot of kind of fun programs that started. Downtown Delivery, they still do Downtown Delivery, was started to make sure that we could deliver products out to the people who live here that wanted to support those businesses and keep them open. I mean, if you think about it, there's a lot of people at home that were working remotely.
Right.
And this is something that they could do. The downtown gift card, just lots of different marketing campaigns to remind people that these are community members that own these stores and help us keep it going. And the community showed up. It was really great.
A lot of good things I'm sure came out of it, but it was really hard times.
It was
for everybody. Didn't know what to do. Didn't know what to expect.
Yeah. What were you doing during COVID?
I never slowed down for a second.
Yeah.
And, we have, property management. So we're out in condos, houses. We got to manage property. So yeah, we never missed a day.
Yeah.
But it was difficult. Learned how to do Zoom. Had to stay out of the, public a little bit, but most of my meetings are face to face. So we'd be in other parts of the room away from, more than 6 foot. And so, but our world never in construction and property management never slowed down for a second.
Yeah,
keep going, keep building.
Yeah, it's like the health changed, all these things changed, but in order to keep systems going, we had to show up. Yeah.
Well, the one thing I noticed that I've said in other podcasts was maybe a good thing, which is sometimes you got to search for the good in it. I'd be sitting in my office on Oakdale in Coralville, and I'd look out, and guess what I'd see along the trails? People walking.
Mm-hmm.
People riding their bike, maybe people that prior to that didn't stay in shape or want to be in shape, but they're out moving and being outside and enjoying the outdoors and enjoying all our trails. And if you think about Johnson County and Iowa City, we got trails that are fantastic all over the place.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I just saw, I think a lot of people maybe looked at their health during that time, how they could stay in shape and at least do something. I saw that as a neat thing. So.
For sure.
Did many businesses fail, or how did it go downtown then?
Yeah, I think some did, but I would say, some of those I would say the majority of them made it, right?
Good.
I mean, there was a lot of concerted effort in it, for sure. I think there was a lot of the complexities of change are around property ownership more so than the businesses in some way. I mean, people know what businesses are open and closed, but the property changes, and that kind of changes the treatment or the lease rates of the businesses that are there. So that's gotten more complex, but Betsy and team there are doing an amazing job with that. And I think, when I made my shift to Greater Iowa City, Inc., one of the reasons I could do that is because I knew that there was such good staff there that understood the complexities of it and the working relationships with all those different entities. So at this organization, the chamber was a group that Downtown District wasn't overly involved in because we were kind of doing a lot of those things for our geography, making sure people knew each other. And so I saw some good opportunities of how we can kind of push other opportunities forward with a different structure. And one of the things that we really have to work at is making sure people know, because we changed the name, Greater Iowa City, Inc., really kind of making sure people understood that we're an economic development and chamber organization, meaning that we're trying to do larger initiatives that support the whole county, as well as making sure people understood that, you in our structure, everyone belongs here. So the membership now, if you're a member of Greater Iowa City, Inc., everybody in the county is a member. If you want to be an investor, that's a different kind of tier structure of how you get involved in shaping the outcomes of our work. So we get people involved as much as we can through innovation councils and different tasks that they find valuable for their business.
So it used to be ICAD, but if you're an investor, tell me about that.
Well,
what's that involve? How much? Where does that money go?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, the organizational structure right now, in merging two entities of 5 and 5 people, we're still 10 or 11 people in the organization. So we had to kind of look at the whole larger financial piece and recognize, kind of similar to if you're looking for something out there, one of the big shifts in the environment is that you don't always look at a business directory, but you Google it, right? So that's a really big impact to an organization like a chamber. So one of the ways we change that is to make sure that anyone who in this county, if they need help with their business, they're just starting out, or if they want to meet some people, you're welcome in the organization. So those members, no paywall, just come on in, come to one of our city lunch connections, learn what's happening in Coralville and North Liberty and Iowa City. We want you to feel like you belong here. So that was a big shift. The investors that participate, they want to get involved. And what we've heard, through surveys and focus groups, is that they want to put their business to work. They like to get involved, with what's happening in the county. So we've set up 4 different innovation councils, and one of them is our board of directors. So we've got a really strong board. Our 3 city managers, Iowa City, North Liberty, Coralville, are on our board. The University of Iowa's got real presence with Dr. Jameson and Pete Mathis at the hospital and academic center. And then we've got our industry leaders, and they're there to provide us with some guidance on what are those big moves that we could be making. And so we're looking at those big moves, how we can get all of our organizations around the table to affect that change. And some of this is structural. So they're supporting the organization financially in major ways. So they're major investors. Then you have, we're trying to look at the different types of industries and what their needs might be, and they invest at different levels depending on how involved they want to get. So like, let's say you're a builder. You want to understand the growth pattern, right? You want to understand what are the opportunities for growing our county and making sure that we've got housing for everybody. So this year, one of our big initiatives was to develop 3 focused investment districts where we can push investment in 3 areas of the county that are need support. The market's kind of stalled out. So those 3 investment districts are the Sycamore Mall area, lots of infill opportunity there, but the way the community design is a little messed up, and it hasn't filled in like it could. 5th Street in Coralville is another one right along here. How do we kind of amp up the opportunities around here? And then Cherry Street in North Liberty. And each one of those areas has got a school. It needs more childcare. It needs more housing, affordable housing as well, attainable housing, so that we can really provide more opportunities for small businesses. So we've developed some plans with our architectural, our design community, different developers that are interested in helping support the infill of these 3 investment districts. And our board said, keep it focused. Let's look at 3 and see how it goes. So this year at November 20th at our annual meeting, we'll be sharing a little bit about those investment districts, and we'll be inviting people to take a look at it. If you want to invest locally, we'd love to have it, because investing locally keeps our money local, and we care about that.
Tell me about, I know that I talked to several young people that just had children, and the cost of daycare, I can't fathom. I mean, it's $2,000 a month or more. It depends on their age.
Yeah.
Are you looking at trying to have daycare centers in every neighborhood, or where people can just, it's easier to get at them? And
yeah, we hear about childcare all the time. So it is one of our strategic initiatives. Katie Gerlach has been one of those that's really helped us kind of shape that and move that forward. And right now, one of the primary tasks here is to help fundraise for a wage enhancement program to keep the child care workers employed, because there's a challenge with not paying the employees of the child care centers
Right.
enough just to keep them there. So I would say childcare is probably one of our biggest challenges, but getting locations for childcare within our investment districts is is a goal of ours. And then just working with that coalition to let them know that they're supported because we need more of them, but we also need for the finances to work around it. And it's going to take everybody at the table to do that.
Are the cities interested in maybe buying the real estate or building a building and then have it operated?
I think that there's some interest, but it's a matter of like where, who, what, and then making sure that we can usher those opportunities forward. And we should have Katie Gerlach on next. She can talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah.
But I would say one of the reasons we've picked those 3 focused areas is because we know that childcare centers would be an important part of making sure that they are located in these areas. And how can we open more? And it's probably a public-private partnership, that these can happen like that.
Yeah,
So
to be able to afford it and be able to get it set up,
Yeah.
because just the real estate alone and the buildings and the rent would be X. And
yeah, and it's probably a place where like maybe there's an opportunity for to renovate a place, maybe over building, but it really depends, right?
Right. Well, in the old days, because I'm a dinosaur sitting here. I remember IKED. They go out and Marty Kelly, if you heard the name, ran IKED, and he'd go out and recruit people when they come into town. Marty'd show them around, and if they wanted a warehouse or they wanted to build, and then bring in industry or whatever businesses needed employees. So, tell me your role today in recruiting, like companies or businesses.
Yeah.
Coming into Johnson County in the area, and then also making sure, like, for example, ACT went out of business and that the good businesses that we have stay here.
Yeah.
So it's a balance between we're bringing in good companies and businesses that would be good for this area, then also the ones that are here, how we help and enhance that.
Yeah.
Is that something you can address?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's first of all, we have an economic development project manager, Melanie Bimson, who works a lot with those companies who are coming in, right? And those leads we get from all kinds of different places, but one of them is the state of Iowa. Otherwise, some of them are through our 3 municipalities, larger municipalities. And then also we get them from other companies or other, we hear about it, right? Or they'll find it through our website. So I would like to think that in Johnson County, it's less about attracting them and more about landing them, right? I mean, in our region, the land supply is like dwindling. There are parts that there's just not that much land to redevelop anymore. It's infill or something else. So we have to get a little bit creative about landing those companies when they want to be here. And when we have really good participation with our builders and with those who are interested in our investment districts, then we start hearing more about what the opportunities are. So if somebody's coming in, we know someone who can help that company out and get them to where they need to be. We try to make sure that when they're here, we understand what assets they're looking for, what would be complementary for their company, and put them in an area. But we share lots of different sites so we can kind of just keep working it. And I would say that number one thing that I've heard anyway over the course of time, it's to some degree, it's about what assets we have here to land the company, but it's also about how they're treated when they are here. And so we do our very best to roll out the red carpet and make sure that they have a personal connection with the decision makers that will help them, towards their path. And we get really, really good marks for that. I mean, and it's not just our organization or our staff. It's the people that we work with, like Gary Watts, right? Like people who understand how important it is just to land these companies somewhere in our county because it matters.
In Cedar Rapids, I think all the land has been sold along 380 south of Wright Brothers all the way down to Shoeyville, Swisher, maybe on past Swisher. You look at the companies that have come in through there, they're building. Look at the AI going on in CR, Google. They're going to put more. I don't know what Iowa City has going on in their areas, but there's a tremendous amount of, I suppose you call it industrial growth, coming south from CR down to the Swisher interchange, which to me, every time I drive up there, it's amazing, just amazing. southeast side of Iowa City. I think Iowa City itself designated that as shovel ready and has industrial ground down, I think, right south.
Yeah, well, it recently, the last of it sold. So
Oh, it
this
did?
year it did.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, so
They're
that
going to build a
is,
warehouse or something? Or
what's that?
what do they?
Well,
can
they
you
have a
say?
number of different things going, but we have some industry coming in,
Right.
and they will be to some degree, kind of working with P&G. So one of the things
good.
I would say about P&G, they're growing, and they want to be here, and they're that piece of P&G. They have employees that don't live in our area or in our county. They're driving in from other places. So that's one of the reasons the Sycamore area is so important, is because there's opportunity for additional housing. It at the end, it comes back to housing.
It does.
Because you can grow these companies, but we got to find places to put people to live here,
workers.
right?
Because generally, when you think of Iowa, it's good, solid people, great workers. I think that's why a lot of employers want to be here, because they know they can depend on our workforce. And we have a great workforce. We just need more of them. But then it gets back to housing.
It gets back to housing.
And affordable housing, I've heard it for 45 years. It just keeps going on. I don't know how else to do it other than some kind of a mix between the state, the local municipalities, and builders and
That's right.
landowners. I mean, it's kind of like it isn't just one magic pill. TIF districts help, because if it's subsidized a little bit, you're going to invest in it. Otherwise, builders, developers aren't going to invest unless there's some kind of incentive.
Yeah.
Because the starter market, of course, I'm going to date myself, with 60, 70,000. I first moved here. Now it could be 400 grand. Well, it just puts that many people out of the market.
Yeah.
And then how do you start in your labor pool? And so it's an ongoing. I don't know if there's any magic pill for it, but you need to have a lot of leaders in a room to be able to work on that. I
You
think.
absolutely do. And when you think about all of those things that you just said, plus how do you make that walking or make that housing situated so it's walkable?
Yeah, that's hard.
Because when you you can build a housing product and
Right.
stick it
Right.
anywhere,
Right.
but if you keep it closer in
Right.
and it's close to childcare, so you're
Yeah.
not driving out 5 miles
to
just to
drop
drop off
'em
your
off.
kids, right? It gets to be quite
Yeah.
complex. That's why these investment districts for us have been pretty important to start working with our community that wants to participate, and they do. They want to help solve for these. They want to understand the complexities. How do we do that in targeted areas so we can just see how it works? And I think we've got some good opportunities for those TIF districts and
Right.
those economic development tools that can help advance if people are on the same page, with why we're doing things to the next level to get that housing built.
Cool. We've got on our screen, we've got kind of what's coming up in November for Greater Iowa
Oh, yeah.
City.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about some of those briefly, Nancy?
You bet.
or
You bet. Well,
just-
thank you, first of all, Gary, for this time. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
probably
we're-
our biggest thing is we have an annual meeting coming up November 20th.
Okay.
And that is
Who's invited or who can come? Or?
anyone can come. There, you can register on our website, greateriowacity.com.
Okay.
And it should be good. We're going to have Mark Kaufman there. If you're familiar with him, he's grew up in Iowa, and he's an alumni of the University of Iowa, and he's coming back to talk about his new project at the Iowa River and Power Plant. He's renovating that building.
He's with Athletico, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right, Athletico.
Yeah, I'm
And so
excited to see that when he
Yeah.
gets done with that, what that is.
That's
is there going
right.
to be a restaurant bar too, or do you know?
I believe there is,
Okay.
and we're hoping he can share a little bit more about that. I don't know what stage they are in their
Yeah.
negotiations.
Well, I see
but
the
we hope
trucks
so.
out there all the time working
Yeah.
away. So
So he's going to be our featured speaker to really share kind of what we hope we share with a lot of people is that, this is an amazing area. Come back. If you're an alumni, this is a great place to invest. It's a great place to grow your family. And there's a lot of really smart people here building companies that we want them to continue. And
Cool.
Mark has done an amazing job of that.
anything on this other? You got the 20th. What else? I
We
see
have,
there's luncheons all the time. Coralville,
Yeah.
North Liberty, Tiffin. I mean, is there something in Tiffin too going on?
We don't have lunch connection set up in Tiffin, but it's
But
a matter of time. Doug
just-
Bolt he's a great guy.
Yeah.
If you ever, he's a storyteller.
Yeah,
he could
I've
probably
had Doug.
talk on.
Yeah, he's great. He's a good golfer too. I got to
Is
give
he?
him a plug here. So.
Oh, good for him. Well, our city lunch connections are different in every community, but we have them weekly on Mondays in Coralville. We have them on Wednesdays in Iowa City. We have North Liberty Wednesday, and then we also have we have a coffee in North Liberty as well. So
So if
just
you're wanting to
plug
get
in
if you're wanting to get involved, there's all kinds of stuff.
all kinds of stuff.
I looked at there's something going on all the time.
All the time, and we're
So-
kind of headquartered downtown at a building merge.
Is that where
downtown
J.C.
Iowa City.
Penney's used to be?
It's around the corner from that. Yeah.
See, I'm dating myself.
Yeah,
again.
exactly. Everything's about a block from that JCPenney's, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right
yeah. So we're
downtown.
headquartered downtown, and people could walk into our office anytime, and it's not hard to get involved with us. And there's, like I said, there's no paywall. We're just interested in connecting good people to help us, really tell the story of the Iowa City area, and we're trying to, build and grow
Let me
and
ask you
attract
this.
people here.
I got another kind of a strange question maybe for you. If you had to walk into the city of Iowa City to a city council meeting representing the Greater Iowa City, Inc., what would you ask them or what would you share with them?
Well, we do walk in there.
Okay.
We do, and I think one of the things that we've been working a lot on is making sure that there's a lot of opinions in this community. We're the home of the University of Iowa.
Yep.
We've got a lot of educated people here with a lot of
Right.
opinions.
Yes.
And so, how can we share those opinions and have good, productive conversation in a civil way, right? So our team works on that, assuming positive intent, sharing what our intentions are, and hopefully recommending paths to that. And when we walk into the city of Iowa City at the council there, and I think their council has gone through a number of waves, we're always starting with that talking point. And we recommend that they get involved in these investment districts. And what I would say at this point, and really all three cities, they've been super supportive of understanding how complex our environment is today and how hard it is to attract companies and really land them. And we've got really good council support for continuing that. In particular, when you think about Sycamore, because it is a challenging area, but you've got P&G growing out there and all kinds of opportunities, and that council is like they're up for it.
That's good to hear about P&G because I thought they sold that to Amazon for their warehouses and they're coming back, huh?
Yeah.
They're expanded.
Yeah, they've got the area that Mid-American was at. They've changed that, and so there's some real growth opportunities for them.
And then ACT, I think a developer in Des Moines is going to redevelop that. They got all
That's
kinds
right.
of things going on in there.
That's right. So the ACT campus has got some really good opportunities there with Jim Bergman and Steve Long, and they're doing some really phenomenal pieces. We were just out there last week with our one of our lunch connections and having people tour the site. They've already got one of the office buildings they're turning into housing as we speak. They've got senior housing out there. They've got kind of a spa area. They've got all kinds of really neat things because that property is remarkable.
It's beautiful.
The old Pearson site has been sold, and they're doing some really interesting things out there. That Shive Hattery's got their new headquarters out there, and some opportunity for volleyball and an expanded site there with the Geffman Group. So we've got some really good things happening.
Well, I can put a plug in for Johnson County and all the cities and all the school districts and everything we have around here. It's not a better place to raise a family, not a better place to be. It's been phenomenal for Becky and I. I mean, we just kind of stumbled in here in 75, didn't know anybody, and just kind of started out. And I'm just thank God every day that we came back home.
Yeah.
And we're not Becky's from Nebraska. I'm from Iowa, Oskaloosa, and we just kind of picked Iowa City. I guess I was a Hawkeye fan. I said, that sounds good to me.
Well, you've got some good things being built. I mean, I think just watching some of the things go up at the Iowa River Landing is pretty cool. And
we stay pretty busy. So
I bet you do.
I want to end on a personal note. I usually try to talk, ask our guests some questions. And who's your hero? What's your greatest hardship you've had? And what's your highlight so far in Nancy Bird? So
oh, boy.
You can take them in any order. Hero, hardship, highlight, just hardship, however you want to do it. But just more of a personal thing in your own life.
Yeah.
If you want to share with us a little more so we get to know you better.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. Okay. I got to think about this real quick. Well, hero, I know this is kind of maybe what a lot of people say, but, I'm a product of my parents, and everything that they've done for me.
Mm-hmm.
They're hardworking people, so kind, just salt of the earth. So I would say that for both of them.
Your mother and father.
Yeah. 100%.
Good.
Heartbreak.
Hardship.
Or hardship.
Then a
hardship.
Highlight. Hardship in your life. Then a highlight.
Trying to think, I think, one of the challenges probably is around some, not to overplay it, but we have, as our parents age, Steve and I, that was one of the reasons we moved back here too, is like to be closer to family, but then also to be supportive as our parents age. We're already looking at our own kids like, okay, which one of you is going to do this for us? But I would say some of the hardships are just watching some of the hardships your own parents have, right?
Mm.
So we're kind of in that sandwich generation where we're caring for our parents and also making sure our kids are getting out there in the world, which they are. So it's a blessing to be able to do that, but it's also challenging.
Hard to see.
Hard to see for
Right.
sure.
Right.
And they've taken pretty good care of themselves, but I would say that. And then a highlight.
Yeah.
Oh, there's been so many. Honestly, in my entire life, there's probably a number of them. And I think a lot of maybe the hardships are with every move I've ever had has been super hard for me because I care so much about whatever I'm leaving.
Mm.
And the highlight is what I'm entering, and I could say that in probably every step of a move that I've made, moving out to Seattle, leaving Seattle, moving, do Peace Corps, all those things. But, moving to this organization has been one of those highlights, but also a hardship because I left such good people at the
Right.
past organization. So, but I would say as far as highlights go with this one is just, maybe I'm just excited about the opportunity to kind of really build bridges, bring people together, meet new people. And every day you just got to stay kind of curious and staying out there. I've got a phenomenal team. They're just fun,
Right.
So I don't know if I got like one or two, but I'll noodle on that some more for
Right.
next time. But lot of I'm really grateful. And I think it probably goes back to like, where do you live and the kind of area I want to live in a community that cares. And I feel like this community cares, right?
Well, this time's been great. I feel like I know you a lot better now. I think the audience does too. We're so fortunate to have you and your energy that you have for the Iowa City area. It's fantastic. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. It's really nice to be here today. Appreciate, you bringing me on. And when these go off, we're going to spend the next hour just talking about you.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Nancy. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.